All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is, I'm going to gabble us in. My name is Julia Mejia. I'm an at-large city councilor, and I'm also the chair of the Boston City Council's Committee on Post-Audit, Government Accountability, Transparency, and Accessibility. Today is August the 29th, 2024, and in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law and relieving public bodies of certain requirements, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, the City Council will be conducting this hearing virtually via Zoom. This hearing is also being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Files Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.ps at boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all counselors. Public testimony will be taken throughout the hearing. Individuals will be called in order in which they have signed up. And you have 2 minutes to testify. If you wish to sign up for public testimony and have not done so, please email our central staff liaison, Krishma Chauhan at karishma.chauhan@boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket 1214. In order for a hearing to audit the distribution of local, state, and federal grants for small businesses. This matter was sponsored by myself, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Tom Fernandez Anderson, and Brian Worrell. The docket was referred to the committee on August the 7th, 2024. Today, I am joined by my colleagues in the order of arrival. Councilor Ed Flynn, Councilor President Louis Jen, and Councilor Breeden. So I am going to, in the interest of just making sure that we are all set and ready to go, and because I have been informed that the administration has a hard stop, I am just going to be really brief with my opening remarks, and we're going to dive right into the administration and then go straight to my colleagues for questions, at which point you'll be able to have your opening remarks and questions. So basically, this was really an opportunity for us to have a better understanding of how dollars are being allocated across the city, specifically for small businesses. And so we're really excited to be joined here with a community panel and also members of the administration, so that our hope is that we can have a better understanding of what is at play, what the communication looks like, and more importantly, what we can be doing differently in regards to policies, practices, and procedures to ensure that small businesses are getting their fair share, particularly those who have been impacted by construction across the city of Boston and other external factors. So without further ado, and because we have a time crunch, I'm going to start off with the administration. And I also want to note that we've been joined by Councilor Weber. So with that said, and in the interest of time, I'm going to go straight to Chief Iruwu. You now have 5 minutes and the floor. Okay. Was I on mute the whole time?
Oh, sorry, Councilor.
Oh.
Good morning or afternoon, sir. Is Alicia here as well? I'm going to ask Alicia to share her screen if she can. I'm having some computer issues on my side. And we'll, to your time limit, Councilor, breeze through the presentation. It's just meant to share the information in terms of where we are for the grants that we're responsible for. Alicia?
Yes, I'm pulling up the slides. One moment.
Thank you. While she pulls those up, I mean, some of them we don't need the slides for, but just to say that The first slide just kind of goes over, what the city is responsible for, and just noting as kind of level setting for folks that, before COVID, the city had not dispersed grants because there is a state law called the Anti-Aid Amendment that has prevented all 351 municipalities from dispersing aid directly to for-profit entities. And so one of the ways that the city worked to support small businesses has been through its technical assistance program and through microloans that are made possible by federal dollars through community development block grants, as well as some other programs like Restore and others that we've talked about at previous hearings. So it's really only recently that the city has been responsible for administering grant programs. And again, those programs have only been possible because of monies that we've received through federal appropriations, through first the CARES Act, which the first round of small business relief went through, and then ARPA dollars, where we've been able to develop some programs that have been beneficial to small businesses. So over the next couple of slides, Alicia, we can skip the first one. Yeah, we can skip this one and head over to the next one, I believe. So since the administration took over in November 2021, we have put together a few grant programs that are listed here. One was the first hearing that the new Economic Opportunity and Inclusion Cabinet requested with the City Council was in January of 2022, where we requested additional monies for the Small Business Relief Fund program known as SBRF 2.0, which again, we are appreciative to you all for approving that. Later on, through ARPA, we developed the SPACE program, where $9 million was set aside to support businesses, and we'll kind of highlight the statistics there. The Legacy Business program that all of you have participated in, which we're grateful for, that gives out grants to those who are awarded that designation. The Contract Opportunity Fund was started in 2021 as a result of negotiations related to the police budget. And that's been helpful in helping folks get certified as entities so that they are then eligible for city contracts. And then the Refresh Grant is the most recent grant that the city has put out to support businesses in the food industry. And I'll have Alicia talk more about that. So briefly, if we go just quickly through these next slides, just to show the data in terms of how these programs have ended up. So the SBRF 2.0, we received roughly 3,000 or more applications. Almost 1,000 businesses were awarded the grant funding. The total amount that the city dispersed through this program is $13.5 million. The average award was $12,000. Of course, many received more, some received less. It was all dependent on need. And just to remind folks of the context of when we made this request, this was during the Omicron variant of COVID-19. And so if you remember, many businesses had to be shut down to protect residents. And so these these industries rather on the right side were targeted for this support since they were the most impacted as a result of that shutdown. And just at the bottom, you see how these were dispersed. 58% owned by those reporting that they were women-owned, 68% owned by people of color, and then the 18% are folks that self-identified as being immigrant-owned, though we know that that number is larger, but many refuse to indicate that they are immigrant-owned for various personal reasons. On the next slide, and this just shows the neighborhood breakdown. You know, Dorchester, of course, being the largest neighborhood, received majority of the grants. Roxbury was up next for apportionment and then dispersed across the rest of the neighborhoods. And all the councilors received this particular graphic in the budget hearing PDF that was shared with folks back in 2023. But we're happy to send this around again. Next slide covers the SPACE program, for which many of you are familiar with this program. We appreciate many of the counselors on this call for helping to advertise this program, and we'll see kind of the demographics of the program on the next slide, where we've received more than 650 applications, and one of the reasons I think for the you'll see kind of a difference in how many people applied for this versus the SBRF. The space program required a ton more information because, we're helping people get leases, we're helping them move into their first or next commercial location. And so, because it required a bit more information, it just showed, fewer people applied to it, which is perfectly fine because we're working with folks in other ways who may not yet be ready for their first commercial space. But so far, $9 million was set aside for this program. We have dispersed or awarded $7.5 million of that. The other $1.5 million will be awarded shortly. Round 3 was put out, and we're just buttoning it up to then share out. 60 businesses have received it so far. A great thing about the first round is that for all the businesses that we supported, about 300 new jobs are being supported through this program. And that's just in the round 1. We're calculating for round 2 so that we can have a combined number when we next come before you. And then just the combined demographics of those who were awarded these grants, 68% women-owned, 74% owned by people of color. On the next slide, it's just a quick, this is just a quick overview of the locations of folks who were awarded these grants. So we have, and we've included in previous hearing overviews, but one graph shows where grantees are located currently, and another shows where they're attempting to move to. And our goal is to help small business owners, particularly owners of color, women owners, move into large-scale commercial hubs of the city like downtown, Seaport, et cetera, because we know that there's immense foot traffic, and we want these businesses to grow and be sustained. On the next set of things here, legacy business. Again, this, like I said, all of you play a role for this one. This is our most engaged program where we engage the community. You'll see we've received over 2,000 nominations for legacy businesses over the 2 years of this program. This then goes to all of you as counselors, and you all make a selection from the group of names that you receive. And then it goes to a committee where that is whittled down to the 30 who are awarded. So this is a great program where everyone is involved. And you'll just see here, 2 million so far that's been made available, 30,000 per business, all neighborhoods covered, and 67% of those awarded were owned by people of color. And then for my final piece here, before kicking to Alicia, just to share about Refresh and the improvements that we've made. The Contract Opportunity Fund, this was launched in 2021 as a way to help encourage business owners to become certified. And as you know, you don't need to be certified to be awarded a city contract, but it is helpful for us to help track who is getting contracts, and also because all of you saw fit to approve the mayor's push for different policy items like the sheltered market program. It allows us to target diverse businesses specifically for contracts. So through the life of this program over the last 3 or 4 years, almost 3 million distributed, 58% were Black owned, close to 20% of those identifying as Latino, 170 businesses plus have been awarded. So I'll stop there, Councilor Mejia, and then Alicia has an update on the Refresh program, which is ongoing, as well as just a quick overview of improvements that we've made as a result of conversations with you all in hearings like this, and then we'll be done. It should be just 2 or 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chief. And I also want to acknowledge that we have been joined by our co-sponsor, Councilor Morrell, is also with us. Thank you. Alicia, you now have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Chief. So we are talking about the Refresh program here, and this is a grant program for food-related businesses. We have 2 rounds of this, and we currently have, for the first round, there was 171 applicants, and the 500,000 was distributed. The average amount was 7,500, but there was a range, and the range was between 2,500 and 13,000. That went to 65 businesses, and 57% of those grantees were either Black or Latino-owned businesses. Just want to go. And I want to talk about the process improvements and what we've done throughout. So we've really tried to have an aggressive strategy when it comes to communication and talking about our work and our opportunities. So all the grants funding that the chief has talked about has also been coupled with technical assistance. So businesses are getting support throughout the process. Specifically for the refresh grant, we increased the application period time. So we're constantly monitoring this grant, making sure that if we are not having a businesses apply, we're extending the application. We decreased the amount of information needed to apply. We realized that could be a barrier for some businesses. And then we also translated the application into 10 languages. So making sure that businesses have the opportunity. We didn't ask for full page or paragraphs of why you need the funding, but really 1 or 2 sentences, making sure that language wasn't a barrier and that if you're not the greatest, if you're not the best at showing why you need the money, that wasn't a hindrance for you getting the money. For the second round, we're actively reviewing documents as they are submitted. This was because in the first round, some businesses did not have complete applications. So we're doing our due diligence this time to make sure businesses have the full opportunity and are taking advantage of these programs. We're hosting ongoing forums and workshops to address concerns in person and virtually. We have hosted 3 refresh hours, and we've been combining them in person and virtually as well. In addition, we've really mobilized our office and ONS to make sure that we are walking our neighborhoods to increase awareness about that. We've been engaging with media, which has been really fun, including local channels like El Mundo, Univision, Spark FM, Big State Banner, just to talk about our work, and as well as some other Haitian radio stations. And we've launched and implemented an immigrant small business initiative, which included coffee hours in native languages and an immigrant small business market to support and provide access to immigrant small business owners. And so when we're doing this, we're also talking about all of our other opportunities and programs. And when you get these grants, we've also have we see a ripple effect. So there's so many success stories here. There's Beauty by Bernard, there's Laughing Monk, there's Comfort Kitchen, One More Rep. There's so many businesses who have received not only the grant, but technical assistance behind. So they have a plan, they have hope for their business. And I just want to make it a point. Let me just, if there's any more. Communication and outreach has been really a big focus this year for us. One of the things I hate hearing is, oh, I didn't know about that opportunity. And so we're making sure that everyone knows about that opportunity, taking advantage of all of the different events that are happening throughout this summer, making sure that we're flyering, we're going to businesses and talking about our work.
Thank you.
And can I just end by thanking Councilor Mejia, the councilors on this call, and those who may be joining later, because the other way that we've made sure that as many folks as possible know is you all and your teams. We've noticed and appreciated many of you are using your social media and other opportunities to engage constituents. So we appreciate your being partners with us in getting this information out to those who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Director Persina. I really do appreciate it. I also wanted to, I know we're going to dive into some questions from my colleagues, but, and as you may know, a lot of this was inspired through some of the businesses that have experienced disruption during, construction. And I'm curious, I didn't see any, I'm sure that because there aren't any grants that exist for this type of disruption, but I'm curious, what, if anything, has the city looked into since the hearing that we hosted in June, or any information that you might be able to provide for some funding supports for businesses that have been impacted by construction? If you can speak to that before I turn over to my colleagues for deeper questions, if there's anything that you could provide within that context.
Yeah, I don't know that we could say that there's more than what we shared at the hearing in terms of helping to, the technical assistance that we provide is free for the business. And, we really want to focus on how we're driving more foot traffic to areas, whether it's through marketing or website enhancements, because that's where a lot of the lost revenue is coming from. And then, we're continuing to advocate for the Economic Development Bond Bill, which, as you know, as Representative Tyler mentioned, should that bill pass, there's an earmark for money that the state is able to provide. They don't have to follow that law that we have to. So that will be really beneficial if passed.
We're going to move on to my colleagues for questions, but I know that we have a very short period of time with you all. Just so that I can, as we're starting to think about next year's budget cycle, I'm just curious, the appetite or opportunities that exist to create some sort of fund or some, set aside some dollars to help support businesses impacted by construction, kind of like based on what we've seen in Charlestown, Dorchester. This is a citywide issue. It's not just isolated. I'm just curious, Chief, from your perspective, what, if anything, do you think the council can do? And also the administration, what are some of the opportunities for us to co-conspire together to help support small businesses who are impacted by construction? Just curious about what your thoughts are as we gear up for next year's budget cycle.
Thank you, Councilor. Yeah, similar to what was shared in Roxbury, again, our goal is to make sure that small businesses are as strong as possible. So, I think I had shared them that my approach is to think about what are all the ways that the city can provide support that might not include just writing a grant. Because, in my former role at BECMA, one of the things that I found as we were advocating for more funding was that, you can get a grant for $5,000, $10,000, which has usually been the limit or the max for these grants. But these businesses become pass-throughs for their landlord or for, for folks that, electric companies, et cetera, rather than being able to use that money for what they truly need for their business, whether it be, some that don't have websites, or they need to hire someone for social media, or they need more staff, or, a plethora of needs that businesses have, which again, through our TA program, we provide for free to the business. The city is the one covering the cost. So I would say in the absence of those grant dollars, we do everything to provide support. In terms of there being an appetite for more money, I know that we have been working with the Mayor's Office of Housing, which receives the federal dollars from HUD, the CDBG dollars, to look for more, because we do want to provide other types of technical assistance that again would remove an expense from the small business. And then again, we want to be helpful with folks. I shared again at the hearing that we always want to know, are folks having trouble with Eversource or water and sewer or other places in terms of bills, because we want to be an advocate, and in addition to your offices, which we know play this role of helping to defray costs so that it's not burdening our small businesses.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll leave to you.
Because I know we only have you 30 minutes, and I keep going to say, then I have one more. I just have more questions, but there's, and it's not just with grants. There are other ways that the city can support, like the property, some of the taxes, the assessments. There's many different ways, and my hope is that today we're here to talk about grants, and I want to be mindful of the fact that my colleagues are here with questions, and we only have you for another 30 minutes. So I'm going to go on to questions. Councillor, in the order of arrival, so that everybody knows what's on deck. Councillor Flynn, I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes. No, son, just joking. 5 minutes, and I'm going to be serious about it. You got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Council Mejia. Thank you, Madam Chair. My question would be to the Chief. Can you give us a breakdown about some of the grants that you have made, the city has made to veteran-owned companies? Was that successful this year or over the last several years?
I don't know that we request that particular information for grants. I know that we do for contracts, but I'd be happy to see if any of the grants that we've put out tracked that information, like requesting it on the application. And if not, we can definitely include it in future grant applications.
Isn't the companies owned by veterans, isn't that a group that we try to support, ensure that they are part of the process of receiving critical services such as grants or any type of loans. Aren't we doing the outreach to veteran-owned companies though?
Yes, and I know for what I don't have are the numbers for the Contract Opportunity Fund, which is meant to help increase the number of certified businesses in all the categories that we track, including veteran-owned. I know that what we shared today was just women and minority-owned, but that's one area where we do track that information. For others, we have not historically tracked that, so I would not be able to share that. But of course, veteran-owned businesses remain the types of businesses that we want to support and helping to grow.
Okay, through the chair, may I respectfully request a list of any type of financial support grants that we gave to veteran-owned companies?
Absolutely, Councilor Flynn. We'll take notes of that and we'll get back to you.
Madam Chair, I have no further questions. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So you're going to give your time to somebody else. Okay. So Council President Louis Jean, you now have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Councilor Mejia, for holding this hearing. Very ironically, it was not the plan. I am taking this call from Madhouse Cafe on Blue Hill Avenue, which is one of the businesses that came out to the hearing that we had, in which a lot of the businesses on this strip are, affected by construction, prolonged construction. So the owner is not here, but we actually spoke at the hearing, and she had some really great ideas. The second of which I will ask. But the first question I have, and thank you, Chief, and thank you, Alicia, for being here, is I know that we did not make grants specifically for any businesses that were impacted by disrupted or impacted by construction. But do you know of the people who applied? Are there is there a handful of businesses are businesses that were impacted by construction?
We can definitely, Alicia can correct me if I'm wrong, but we can definitely compare the list of folks who have been impacted with those who applied and were awarded grants. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that might be a hard question because, in a sense, all businesses are impacted by construction. It just depends on, if there's a way that you can find it based on the number of months that there's been significant, right? Whether we're talking about here on Blue Hill Avenue, or we're talking about the bridge in Hyde Park, right? Or just around the city, where there's been a notable and a substantial period of time of disruption, then maybe that could be the metric by which you determine what is defined as a business impacted by construction.
So thank you, Council President Louisian. I love that you're at Madhouse. You can take the lemon cake; they're really good. Try that. But so what
I had the banana bread instead. So
okay. So what
next time I'll try the lemon cake. I hear it's really good.
It's amazing. It's my favorite. So we've been working with a lot of the businesses there. Actually, the business next door to that, Roy's Auto Body, we've done their new signage for them. We're actually working with Madhouse on their signage as well. When we talk about technical assistance and being able to support some of these businesses, if you see outside of Madhouse, they also have outdoor dining. That's an opportunity that they didn't have last year that they had this year. We helped them with the architectural rendering for that. We helped them access the Jersey barriers to get that as well. And then they're a recipient of the Refresh grant. So we understand that. So when we talk about we want to provide a bunch of support, that's the support we got. We're talking about when we want to penetrate a business to really support them and help them. I think along Blue Hill Ave, it's hard because not all of the businesses are food related businesses. And so while we are able to support some of the food related businesses through this grant, SBRF ended it a long while ago. And so grants to other businesses, we're not able to provide. However, one thing that we do know from this, and this has certainly been a learning experience for us, that we need to get to the businesses ahead of time, making sure that we're developing a plan for them. when interruptions do happen, so it's not so much of a blow to their business.
Okay, great. And I love that the support that you're providing. Obviously, help champion the refresh grant and more money in the refresh grant. So happy that they're getting that. A related idea to make sure that businesses, and I love the outreach, especially to immigrant businesses, that's happening. I think the intentionality behind that is very apparent. I wonder if there's work to really partner with the main streets to be more, for there to be more hand-holding involved when it comes to the grant application process, where like more of the onus maybe is sort of shifted. I don't know if there's a capacity for that in our main streets, but especially for immigrant-owned businesses, or where there isn't, where there's like information asymmetry, whether the main streets could be doing a lot more work with actually like completing the grants on behalf of the businesses or in partnership with the businesses.
Well, I very much appreciate that idea, Councillor, and certainly there have been many successful Main Streets districts that have helped do exactly what you're saying. And it's one of the reasons that the mayor, working in partnership with you all, increased the amount that the city is providing to Main Streets by $5 million, because we did want to provide that additional capacity for such a moment as this. So we're looking forward to 100% of all of our Main Streets districts providing that support, but certainly, that's been another crucial element to making sure that more people are applying, but also applying successfully.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Red time, President Louisiane.
Those are all my questions.
Awesome, good job.
Those are all my questions. So
good job, thank you. Awesome, so I'm moving on next to Councillor Breeden, followed by Councillor Weber, then Councillor Rupp. And I also want to note that we have the administration that has a hard stop at 3, and then we have State Auditor Desiglia, who is also going to be joining us. Okay, Councillor Breeden, you now have 5 minutes on the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for the great update on all of these incredible supports for our small business community. I had a few questions. One was the support for a small business who needs to improve their signage. I know someone from your shop has been helping with this, but it seems like a very slow process. What's the process of a store owner needs to improve their signage and they need to put a new sign up, and does it have to go to the ZBA, or are we reviewing regulations about signage? It seems like we've been working on this for a long time and nothing's happening. That was one question. And then the other question, in terms of the Contract Opportunity Fund, are we monitoring these businesses to see if they're being more successful in bidding? Obviously getting up to speed to apply for contracts, but we're going to be monitoring that. I hope we're going to be monitoring that over the longer term and have some indication of how effective that program is. And the other question of concern I have is that we did a small business walk in Alston last week, and we hear from a long-established neighbourhood eatery that would qualify for being a legacy business, but the landlord increased the rent by 40%. And I feel it's a really sort of predatory activity. I think the landlord wants to evict them. But have we got any protections for small business owners who face that sort of extortionate increase in rents? Do they have any protection? Those are the 3 questions I had.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor. And I'm going to be quick on these. On the Restore program, just letting everyone know I did not plant this question, because you're absolutely right. When we came in back in 22, we had a number of reports of how many people had been waiting for years for their request to kind of move forward. And so Alicia has been working with other city departments. We won't go through all the specifics here today, noting the time constraint on answering your question, but just to say that we would love to set up a time next month to walk you through the improvements that we're making to this program to make it quicker, but also to ensure that the city is putting even more money on the table to help move this along, because a lot of people don't apply because the city was not putting up a ton of money for the program. So anyway, I want to know more about the person that you spoke to so we can provide support there, but also we're just improving the program overall. On the contract piece, the answer is yes. We are monitoring. We've wanted to make sure since we came in that every program that we put out there, it's not just writing a check and letting people do whatever after that. We want to provide comprehensive support. I don't have the list with me, but I do know that multiple awardees of the Contract Opportunity Fund have actually bid on and been awarded city contracts. I don't know them off the top of my head. I apologize, and I should have had that with me today. But definitely get that for you. And then our team is constantly working with them to prepare them for upcoming opportunities. And then on the last question here, at the moment, there is no policy protecting that business that you highlighted, but it is a shared concern with us. The predatory practices that we're seeing have been seeing for many, many years now across the city, and we would love to work with your office on developing policies that do protect our small businesses, because this is a concern that we have across the city. As gentrification is not, as you all know, it's not just housing; it's also our small businesses being priced out. And right now they don't have protections as you're outlining.
Yeah, Chief, the other thing, I support development and I'm broadly supportive of this Squares and Streets program. But one thing I'm really concerned about is this sort of predatory activity whereby an investor sees an opportunity to buy a building or a small block of buildings. I know that Square Streets is limited to like under an acre, so that you don't end up with PDAs. But I feel that this push to displace small businesses, many of them immigrant or women-owned businesses. We have to really have some tools in the kit to protect those businesses and have some consequences for these bad actors who are participating in this sort of predatory activity in our small business districts.
I agree.
But I do appreciate all your work on this.
Elijah on my team, our policy director, has been looking into this, so I'll make sure that we reach out to your team to set up a time to chat.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
One thing I would also note, Councillor, is that we did have two recent signage projects that went up in Alston and Brighton. So one was Alston Market and Blue Sakura. So really excited about those. Those were projects that had been in the works for a while, and we finally completed them. And then I'd also like to mention, in terms of the Contracting Opportunity Fund and just contracts in general, we have made it a point to create one of our TA programs to support businesses who would like to apply for contracts, and we're going to monitor that fully. So walking through the contract process, helping them get all of their documents together. So it's not only getting them certified, but making sure we're going through them with a process so they can get that money.
Yeah, the business that one of the businesses that I know, it's the Greenhouse Kitchen in Oak Square is the one that I had a request in for help with signage, and I just hope that we could maybe move that along. But I'm happy to talk to your office offline. Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's right, offline, y'all. Taking over my hearing here, and I still got two more colleagues in my own questions, so I'm gonna have to push back a little bit. Okay, Councillor Weber, you have 5 minutes, then followed by Councillor Burrell, and then I'm going to ask my questions.
Thank you. Councillor Braden is free to take some of my time if she needs it. I only have a couple questions. I guess, for businesses who come to me who are interested in these programs, just basically like what should I tell them, who to call, where to go to? If you just have some general information advice.
Well, generally, Council, you can always feel free to reach out to me, and happy to provide any support at any time. But also, the small business website always has the information, and Alicia, as the director, is also always the best person to reach out to. But we have multiple ways of engaging us. We're very responsive on social media as well.
Okay. And then, it's sort of unfortunately, we hear a lot about businesses who've been around for a long time, whose landlords are seeking very large increases, that, these grants are helpful, but they're not going to get the business, keep the business around. What do you have any advice or things we should be looking at that are outside of these grants to help a business, just to take, a fictional business that's been around for 20 years whose landlord wants to triple the rent, and what we can do about that?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question, Counselor. I think of two things. One is sort of similar to Counselor Braden's question. There's no specific policy that would prevent the landlord from doing that. We've had a number of cases that we've had to work with folks because of, I'll use the counselor's words, extortionist practices of that kind. I will say that our space program has a particular technical assistance aspect of lease negotiation, where we hired a law firm that works with those who tap in and want to use that service to negotiate leases that will not harm them 5 or 10 years from now. And that TA is available to everybody, whether or not they apply for a grant, whether or not they're awarded a grant. It's just a TA service that we now provide. So that is another that I would see them being able to take advantage of.
Okay, and I guess in terms of bike lanes, I've heard a lot in my district about businesses that are impacted by bike lanes. I don't know, have you thought about any programs to address that issue, or at least figure out if that is a concern, or how you can help small businesses when the roads completely change in their area?
Is the suggestion that businesses are losing customers, Counselor?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've actually asked for, I've asked for economic data, because I thought, look, either we have the data and it shows a loss, or we don't. The data doesn't show a loss, and that's the good news. People aren't losing money. But I don't know if your office has looked into that issue.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly haven't heard from anyone that they're losing business as a result of this, but certainly we'll take that back and coordinate with Chief Franklin Hodge on that particular issue. I appreciate your raising that up.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just like sort of a beautification program around that, where Chief Hodge is doing a great job and putting in the bike lanes, but they're not putting, there could be better signage, or planters or something that comes in with that might help that, or at least help with the last question. I don't know if the time, and this is out of left field. I don't know which side left field is on, but we're talking about, we can't give money to businesses directly. Just having read an article about Paris and how the city government there is like an active market participant, and the city purchases buildings routinely and is able to offer low income housing, also keep sort of older businesses in place in neighborhoods. Is that something we can even do here?
Well, so two things. One is that I believe that's what the BPDA, well, the former BPDA has been able to do. And I think in the powers that it retains, that could still be a possibility. I will also note, this might have been before you're coming onto the council, Counselor. A program that we are developing and looking at is something called the Commercial Acquisition Assistance Program, which CAP, which is focused on generating dollars to provide to small business owners to acquire their property as a way of stabilizing neighborhoods and preventing them from being displaced. So those are two things that come to mind for that question.
Well, that's great. I was wondering, so there's no legal thing that you're aware of if the city owned a building, then to offer sort of lower rents to businesses that are currently there, or that are not national chains or something.
Yeah, I mean, the city has been doing that. I mean, the properties that the city owns currently through the BRA mechanism is one way that the city has been doing that. I'm not sure after the process that we just went through what has been retained or what dollars are available to continue that, but certainly is an instrument that we have had.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Webb. I just want to be mindful of time, and I know Councilor Roel also has his questions, and I do too, and we have a hard stop with the administration. So, Councilor Roel, thank you for being here. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the administration for being here. Just want to say great work, Chief Idowu and Director Persena, and your whole team on what you guys have been doing over the years. Your outreach is amazing. I was just sending out, I think last week or the week before, information to the business owners in my district about the Refresh program. And like, we already got it. So it just speaks to all the outreach that you guys have been doing. I also love the fact that the technical assistance is starting to be tied to the grants. I think it gives the city an opportunity to peek underneath the hoods to kind of understand, what other solutions or what other support the businesses need. So I love that. My first question is COVID money, ARPA dollars. How much, like the percentage of dollars or the percentage of grants that are ARPA dollars? Do you guys have that breakdown?
In terms of the grants that we have awarded?
Right. Or the programs, right? I know whether it's the space grant, the legacy program, Refresh, what programs are on ARPA dollars?
Everything that we discussed today, except for the legacy business program, has been funded through ARPA.
Got it. And then I guess that leads me to my next question is what's the total amount? I didn't write it all down. Do you have that total amount?
Roughly, probably close to $25 million that's gone out.
Got it. And I guess, now my question is, I created like these great programs that business owners are probably, looking to apply to next year because I'm getting an award. Everyone on the list, what is the for programs after next year?
I missed one. You said, is your question, what is the plan for these programs after ARPA?
Right, after
Okay.
ARPA run.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for the question. So I know in particular for something like this space program, we are actively in conversation with potential funders to provide additional dollars to that program so that we can continue to fund that one. But this is something that we've made folks aware of when in any of our letters to people, whether they're being awarded the money or not, that this money was made available by the federal government. The city does not do this. It may not be available in the future, which is, again, one reason that I have stressed and focused on through this team, the TA and other services that we provide, because it's not always guaranteed that we'll have grant dollars available.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And to that, I know there's a lot of organizations and corporate offices that do supply funding. How do we, or what is our role, if any, in directing our local businesses to those different opportunities?
Yeah, and the unfortunate piece is that a lot of those programs have been dissipating pretty drastically as we move away from COVID. There used to be tons of money out on the streets, which was really helpful for the city, because people. So I won't call out programs, but for instance, there were a couple of programs funded either at the state level or by private actors that we were able to work with them on folks who did not get money from the city. Now, I will admit I don't know how many of those folks that we were working with them with got the money, but just to say that one way we were trying to work with other entities was to make sure that if they did not get money from the city, that there were other opportunities that they could get funded. But a lot of those opportunities are now gone.
And my last question, Chair, is just going back to COVID. Out of all the COVID money, all the ARPA dollars, how much have you spent? How much were you allocated?
I'm sorry, the connection. You said how much was?
How much was allocated and how much have you spent?
Oh, well, if the rough numbers off my head are 25 million, then we're at maybe 23 have been spent because there's some monies left for refresh and then the 1.5 left for the space program.
So you're running through it pretty. All right, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councilor Morell. With 10 seconds left to spare, I appreciate it. All right, so if anyone knows me, all my hearings are unorthodox, right? So I don't usually follow the norm or the rules. I'm going to break protocol really quick. I know that we have a panelist who's also a business owner, and there is just one question that she wants to ask before I ask mine. So in the interest of stepping to the side and allowing other folks to lead and speak, I'm going to give my mic for 1 minute, Amanda, to you. So if we can make sure that Amanda is here and able to ask your question, I'm going to put you on a timer because this is out of the norm.
All right. I'm up for the challenge. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Councilor Mejia, for the opportunity. I own 2 small businesses in Charlestown, Place and Gather and Junebug. I am also the president of our business alliance in the neighborhood. Construction has impacted us immensely. It's been horrible. Our sales, my sales personally at Place and Gather are down 30% overall. The size, scope, scale of the project in Charlestown that's taking place in front of my business is nothing I could have anticipated, even with a little bit of communication, a notice from the city. I didn't get anything at Place and Gather, got 3 days notice at my other business, Junebug. But I wanted to go through all my notes, but I only have 1 minute. So Charlestown is not part of the Main Streets program. Can we become part of this Main Streets program and get some help? I think that that would be fantastic for all of us. I know other business owners have asked for it. I'm not sure why we're not a part, but that could be a further conversation offline if anybody wants to have it with me. And that being said, the construction in front of Place and Gather started last August, and it's still happening. So badly so that WBZ covered it last week. People think that our businesses are closed. I have Instagram content with tens of thousands of views, and I still can't get people to come into the store because they can't physically get into my store. I had a customer yesterday. She's lived in the neighborhood for 20 years. I saw her on the street. She said, I just figured you're closed. Why would you ever be open during this? I have 16 Charlestown residents that are employed at Place and Gather and Junebug, and then I have a couple others that live in other parts of the city. I need to keep people paid. I have fabulous employees. I have people on salary, so I can't just send hourly folks home. I have managerial people, and I just need help. So it's been a year.
Thank you, Amanda. Chief, I think that, in terms of technical assistance and some of the other supports, I'm curious, I know maybe grants may not be the ticket item that we have right now as a menu of options, but I'm just curious, this whole idea of driving traffic to spaces and places that are impacted. Can you just talk to us a little bit about what that potentially may look like?
Yes, and let me start off by saying that Junebug is, if you all have not been over in Charlestown to Amanda's businesses, they're pretty fantastic. And actually, Amanda, I was happy that you had her come here. Is probably one of the best advocates for folks over in Charlestown. We connected a couple years ago, and she brought a bunch of the business owners there into the office to chat about what's happening there and how we can be supportive. So very, very happy to see you. And I'm looking forward to our meeting next month, by the way. That was scheduled prior to this conversation. Yes. So I'll say 2 things. One is, and I'm happy Alicia's here, we'll definitely make sure this is actually what I want our meeting to be about, is how to drive traffic, period, to Charlestown, because one of the things that popped up in our conversation was that Charlestown, much like East Boston, sometimes feels very distant from the city and not a part of it. And I wanted to have a conversation about, given that everyone's talking about the 250th in 2026, but Charlestown actually gets to celebrate a year early because the Battle of Bunker Hill was 250 years ago in 1775. And so next year is going to be a huge year. We know for Charlestown, where it's the only part of the country that can celebrate 250th before everybody else. So that's one thing that we want to leverage to drive tons of traffic to places like Junebug and other places in Charlestown. So that's one thing. So we should talk about that. Your other question about Main Streets, this is something that we talked about a couple of years ago as well, because other places like South Boston, and a couple other neighborhoods don't have a main streets. And what I did not want to do, as I shared with you then, is, main streets, and I see one of our folks here, Ed Gaskin, there were improvements that need to be made to the program. And what I did not want to do is throw folks into a house on fire. I would have preferred to have fixed the program and then invited others into it. But I also, one of the reasons I'm very happy that the Alliance exists is the money that we get from the federal government does not say this has to go to an entity called Main Streets. It's a program that was developed that Menino brought here, but the money is to help small businesses. And so another thing I wanted to talk about, and we'll talk about in our September meeting, is through organizations like yours, through the Southie organization, how do we still provide that support, even though your organizations are not known as Main Streets?
Okay, great. Thank you. And I know that I literally have 3 more minutes with you all here, and I want to make sure that I get at least 1 or 2 questions that I have for you. One is because we know a lot of things were put on hold, like around construction because of COVID. I'm curious, as you continue to have the conversation around I didn't get a number, like, do we have $1.3 million? Like, how much is left in the COVID, in the ARPA fund for businesses? Did you say that and I missed it?
Yes. So I mean, it depends on the fund that we're talking about. So for instance, for the space program, well, I actually can't even say that the money is left because we are going to award the remaining $1.5 million that's left in that program. We're just finishing up the details of that part of the program. And then the refresh grant, I think Alicia can correct me if I'm wrong, has 500,000 left in that program. Yeah.
So, okay, sure. So the reason why I'm asking this question, because it's really about how do we meet the most immediate moment right now, and because we know that small businesses have already suffered, and we're thinking about recovery, and we're thinking about bringing people back to work. Literally, we know that construction was also put on hold as a result of COVID, right? And so I'm just curious, as we're continuing to navigate the conversation of ARPA dollars that are allegedly left over, do you have the flexibility and or if there's an appetite to pivot to really try to support some of these businesses in the here and now?
So the money that we have right now is earmarked for the specific reasons that we set them aside. However, I think to your question, this is why it's important that we not have these conversations divorced from our other partners out in the ecosystem. So I see the auditor Desaglio here, who, representing the state, who have way more access to dollars than the city. And, we have partnered with folks like Larry Andrews at Mass Growth Capital to ensure that a lot of Boston businesses get access to those millions of dollars that they give out, as well as other private actors that Councilor Worrell brought up. So I think it has to be a holistic conversation as opposed to just what the city can provide. Because again, the city never gave out grants, and outside of other federal dollars coming to us, I'm not sure, that should be our particular focus versus what we have available in other programs.
So for just clarification, if businesses are awarded one grant, are they eligible to receive other grants? Is that
Yes. You mean if they get a city grant, are they eligible for other city grants or other state grants? Yes, they are. Yes, they will be.
Grants. Okay. And, it says here that most of our grants, we should be done with, all the money should be used by 2024, correct?
Have to be obligated by December 24 and spent down by December 2026.
Okay, so then everything has to be allocated and out the door by 2024, December, correct?
We'll just
out the door. What does that mean?
Just spend. So we have to spend all the money by the end of 2026.
Okay. All right. And so as you continue to navigate, when you said that these dollars have already been earmarked for these specific programs, are you then saying that there is no wiggle room or opportunity for us to revisit some of the most immediate needs that have bubbled up to the top since you've designed these allocations?
Right. Outside, yeah, because I'm ticking through my head right now of what programs that we've got, the ones that, I mean, like for instance, the refresh grant, we wouldn't be able to change that up because that's specifically for food business. Yeah, I think from what we got left, that's kind of where it has to go. But there again, like I said, if the economic development bond bill is to pass this fall, then we will absolutely be on top of the state and providing that support for businesses that have been impacted by construction and other things that have popped up, because they have the flexibility to kind of tailor that program.
Yeah, okay, great. And I want to be respectful and mindful of the fact that you both have a hard stop at 3, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the partnership that we've had with your office. One is all of the work that we've done in partnership, Chief, you and I, since your early stages here on, working at the administration. I uplifted the important role of having someone dedicated to immigrant-owned businesses. And so I just wanted to say thank you to you and your team for really looking at some of the barriers that folks who are not English speakers face. And then also just want to thank you both for showing up as you have been for the small businesses that have been impacted by construction and the hearings that we've had. So I just want to say thank you for being a thought partner with us. And I really do want to appreciate the fact that you allowed me to insert Amanda into this line of questioning, that you were receptive to it. And just that just goes to speak to your willingness to be in deep community and in partnership with folks. So I just want to say thank you both for showing up the way that you do and for being with us here this afternoon, and looking forward to continuing the dialogue. This is not the end. This is just the beginning, I hope.
Absolutely. Thank you, Counselor. And we'll look forward to working with you during these hearings and following these hearings. And apologies that I can't stay later. I got by the cocoa and need to go get some rest. But again, this is very important to us, and thank you for your contributions, as well as the rest of your colleagues on here today.
Thank you. Thank you. And just because they're not here doesn't necessarily mean they're not listening, y'all. Just so you know, this is being recorded, so they'll go back and they'll get to hear some of our other panelists. But I just want to be super mindful and in the interest of time, really super excited that we have our colleague, State Auditor DeZiglio, who is the number one voice when it comes to all things holding us accountable to transparency, auditing, not just the state. I think that you audit everyone in all spaces and places. And so really excited for you to be here with us. I know you also have some time constraints, so we want to start off by giving you have 5 minutes. You're walking into a conversation that is weighing heavy on a lot of folks, the hearts and minds of business owners across the city of Boston. And so we are here to talk about what it looks like in regards to the way funding gets into, the bank accounts of those who are impacted by construction and others. So I'm going to go to you. You get 5 minutes, like everybody else, and then we're going to have everyone. We have also Executive Director Ed Gaskin, and you already heard from Amanda. We'll do a round with you all of questions after everyone has had their 5 minutes. All right, State Auditor, you now have 5 minutes at the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. I really appreciate the invitation to be here today. I just want to speak a little bit to the benefits of increasing transparency and accountability, generally speaking. I haven't had an opportunity to read over the full proposals that you're considering, but I know that you're talking about bringing more transparency and shining some more light on spending having to do with small businesses. And certainly we all want to make sure that our tax dollars are being spent efficiently, effectively, and that they're spent in a way that it's actually impactful and helpful to the people. They're supposed to be being served by these programs that exist, whether it be at the state level, the federal level, or the municipal level, right? So I was actually so grateful to hear from Sigun's, the chief now, on these issues. And I wanted to say thank you to him because when I was the chair of the Small Business Committee as a state senator, he actually worked alongside of our office, and I was really thankful for that. I believe it was when he was working at that time with the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts on advising our committee on how we could draft more impactful and meaningful legislation to make sure that all voices and not just the powerful and the privileged were represented during the processes and procedures that state government, had been implementing relative to the small business community. And we got a lot of insight during that time. And actually, I was grateful to hear from the small business owner talking about just, the Main Streets program. We actually tried to implement Main Streets in a comprehensive bill that our committee released, that we drafted to implement that statewide, so that there aren't these pockets that exist in places like Charlestown, for example. And I hope that conversation is still being had in the legislature, in this administration. I know that it's an incredibly important issue, and I support augmenting those services through Main Street, certainly. So I want to just kind of throw my support behind that as well. But in particular, one of the things, the one thing that I was super, super extra grateful to hear about was the mention of Mass Growth Capital Corporation, because they are an entity that my office actually is mandated by law to audit. I am not authorized under law to audit municipalities without your direct approval. I'm not authorized. I don't audit taxpayers. A lot of people go running in the other direction when they hear the word auditor. I'm not the IRS. I don't audit you. I actually audit state government for you. And Mass Growth Capital Corporation, which was just mentioned, that partners with the city, is an entity that we actually audit in my office. And we actually just released our audit of Mass Growth Capital Corporation. This was an audit of what occurred during the previous administration. And we were able to shine a light on several areas where there were inefficiencies and actually mismanagement of our small business relief grant monies that were allocated to that program. Specifically, we found that applicants did not receive priority scoring the way that they were supposed to according to Mass Growth Capital Corporation's contracts. They were supposed to be making sure that small businesses received priority scoring, ensuring that our BIPOC business community, our women-owned, veteran-owned, gateway city-located business community, that they were getting equitable access to those grants and that they were getting priority based on what the contract stated during that time period. And we found that that wasn't actually happening, which could result in, obviously, folks not getting access to their grants in a timely fashion and in accordance with their contract in an equitable fashion. Also, we did uncover as well that ineligible applicants for these small business grants were actually being granted grants and they were not eligible. So what does that mean? That means that there's less funding for those who are eligible to receive those small business grants. And certainly we want to make sure that taxpayer dollars are not being misused and that entities who are not legally entitled to be receiving taxpayer funded grants are certainly not getting access to those opportunities that are meant to be provided to a specific entity of folks or group of folks according to the law and according to the contract. Finally, we found that the amount that was actually being spent on those small business grants that were going out, that it was not being spent in accordance with the allowable contracted amounts. What happened was the entity, Mass Growth Capital Corporation, was rounding to the nearest $10,000 when they were giving out their grant. So, that would mean that if there was the grant that was, let's just say, for example, $20,000 and $49, presumably that would mean that would go up to $30,000, right? That's not what the contract stipulated. The contract was very specific in what was allowable in giving these grants out. And again, resources, especially when they're scarce, we need to make sure that we are keeping an eye on managing those funds appropriately and in accordance with these contracts and with the law. So we did make a number of recommendations to Mass Growth Capital Corporation. I am thankful to their team under this new administration for agreeing with the majority of our findings and recognizing the need for improvements and agreeing to work alongside of our office to augment the services that they're providing and to increase accountability within the organization itself, so that, again, residents are better served the way that they're meant to be served by our state government. So wanted to put that out there for the sake of letting you know that these types of audits, transparency in general is generally a good thing, right? So our office seeks to increase transparency and accountability in order to help make government work better. We're doing just that with this particular entity that works alongside of all of you. And I think that if the city is looking to do something similar, that's a great idea, because it can only serve to benefit the city and our community.
Thank you, State Auditor DeZiglio. I know that we're hosting this hearing during a long weekend, right? So I want to be super mindful of everyone's time and commitments and respectful of that. Councilor Weber, if you have any questions specifically for our auditor, I'm more than happy to go to you. And then I do have one question for you, or two, but I'd like to defer to my colleagues first. Councilor Weber, you now have the floor.
No, I don't have any questions. I just want to thank the auditor for coming and making a presentation. I don't want to waste anyone's time. So thank you, and back to you, Chair.
Anytime, Counselor, anytime. Happy to join. Was right outside City Hall with y'all yesterday. It was great to see you virtually today. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Weber, for staying here. We still have a few more community panelists, so stay tuned. But before you leave, Council, I was going to call you, oh my God, no, State Auditor DeZiglio. I'm curious if you could just talk to us a little bit about kind of when someone when there's a bad actor, per se, kind of, can you just talk to us a little bit about some of the consequences that do you make recommendations around some of the consequences that folks should adhere to or be mindful of when they're not acting in the best interest of the public?
Yeah, so this particular audit, that wasn't the case in this particular audit. It found some deficiencies, some mismanagement. The current management is taking actions, and they've agreed that they need to take action. So, we're going to continue to work alongside of them. We don't have enforcement authority in the Office of State Auditor, so that should be noted. We are able to make recommendations. We're able to shine a light on what's going on in these agencies, take a look at the documents, the processes, the procedures, the financials, and then identify those gaps and areas where improvements need to be made. And then we are able to consider what might be helpful to the entity that we are auditing and make recommendations to them for some, potential ways to improve upon the situation that we've, identified as being problematic. In certain circumstances, and actually the last audit we just released is a little bit more in line, I think, with this question. We did just release an audit of the Convention Center Authority, and we had some very serious findings there. These findings were serious too, obviously. It's taxpayer dollars, right? It's always serious when taxpayer dollars are involved. We uncovered some unlawful activities at the Massachusetts Convention Center Authority, however, and they were so serious in nature that we actually referred many of the issues that we uncovered to the appropriate enforcement agencies. So we sent some of the issues regarding the unlawful state contracting and procurement issues that we uncovered, and the unlawful execution of a $1.2 million non-disclosure agreement to conceal allegations of racial discrimination and retaliation. We sent those over to the Attorney General's office. We also uncovered the lack of public records that was required to be kept under law, such as some of the original bids for some of the state contracts that were given out. Very important to maintain those things. We're talking about small businesses. Want to make sure that small businesses are being impacted or being given the appropriate opportunities, right? And that those processes and procedures regarding procurement are being followed in accordance with the law. Really tough to check up on whether or not that's the case when those original bids are missing. That's very concerning. There were allegations that it was willful destruction of public records. So we've referred that over to the Secretary of State's office, and also referred some other allegations that were credible and serious in nature over to the State Ethics Commission. So that is how we in the Office of State Auditor handle when there is potential malfeasance or unlawful activity. We do not have authority to take action on those issues, but certainly we are able to refer them to appropriate enforcement agencies and authorities, and obviously we let the public know what we found.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And my last question, because I know I'm holding you hostage here, is, and I think it's important for those folks who are tuning in, because we don't know what department we go to for what, right? Oftentimes we think that you should be talking to your state rep, or you should be talking to your congresswoman. We don't know who to talk to sometimes, right? And so that's why it's important to have these hearings, because then people know where to go to for what, right? And so I'm going to ask you a question that could help provide some guidance for some folks who are tuning in. So let's look at Eversource or the Boston Water and Sewer Commission, right? These are quasi agencies, right? So the Boston Water and Sewer Commission in particular, I'll just stick to that. They are somewhat part of the city, but not so much so, right? Do they fall within the state?
So I will speak to Eversource in particular as a utility company. They're regulated by the Department of Public Utilities. And while I can't audit Eversource themselves, I can audit the Department of Public Utilities, and I can audit other state entities that provide oversight to our public utility companies, right? We are actually looking to conduct a report now in my Division of Local Mandates, looking at the Mass Save program, for example. The Mass Save program is a program that is meant to make sure that people can promote a clean environment and save on energy costs. And what is generally known, but there's not too much data around, is that the services regarding the reduction of costs, the cost savings, is generally provided in the more affluent, wealthy communities, and less so in the gateway city communities, low-income communities. And this was something that I talked about as a senator, but point being, I can't audit Eversource themselves, but what we're doing is we are getting whatever publicly available information there is out there. We're looking at the different regulations, and we are still trying to conduct an analysis of this, but using the resources that we do have with looking at that state oversight aspect of things, right? Because it is unacceptable to take ratepayer dollars out of low-income, struggling communities and funnel those dollars to wealthy, much more affluent communities, just because those are the folks who happen to have been educated about these mass save opportunities, right? It's, you might be providing savings, but who are you providing savings to, and who is it costing? Right. And, it seems to be costing a lot of low-income residents across the state. So we want to promote clean energy while also making sure that we're also promoting economic justice, right? Those two things should not be mutually exclusive. So we're working on that, but that's how we do it. We look at what we do, what we can, where we are with what we have, and work through those state entities, and then utilize whatever public data we can get.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for helping, those who are following along understand kind of like the ins and outs of the work. I think one of the things that I know a lot of the folks who have been following this particular issue is when we're talking about grant making, I know this is what this particular hearing is, but I also know that there's a level of accountability for Boston Water and Sewer Commission. Are these folks that are doing business or construction on our city streets? When it comes to accountability and efficiency, like from the moment that they start a project to the moment they're supposed to end, there needs to be some level of accountability, and not that you can enforce it, but there has to be some way or some shape or form for these folks to have a commitment to the community at large for beginning and ending on time, right? So I'm just curious in your work, and if not you, maybe it's the Attorney General, but someone there has to be somebody that can answer this, or at least provide some context to these business owners who have been struggling literally to keep their doors open. And I'm curious.
Yeah, and I think, Councilor Mia, if you don't mind, I don't mean to interrupt you. When you're talking about this, I am reminded of the last time I joined you on one of these Zoom calls, and you were talking about a municipal office of Inspector General. I think that's a great idea, and I think that that could be something that really helps to increase accountability for different city departments. Because like you said, our office isn't the one that provides this. It's actually unlawful. It's unlawful. It would be against the law for me to come in and try to audit the city. It's statute. We're not allowed by law to audit municipalities without their express consent of, the council and the mayor. So everyone needs to be on the same page. That very rarely happens. Who can come into cities and towns and conduct investigations, just as an FYI, because a lot of folks ask me this, who is able to come into cities and towns without that consent is the Office of Inspector General at the state level. So the state Office of Inspector General would be able to look at those municipal issues without that consent needing to be given. That office could just look at that. And again, to the point of your last meeting, if the city did want to, I think it was the Office of Inspector General from the city of Philadelphia. Was that who it was? I mean, he was fantastic in just breaking down how great it was for the city, how much it increased accountability for residents, to give them access to let them know that their concerns were being addressed. If people said, this is sketchy, or it seems like this isn't being done correctly, he was able to say, look, I'm going to go in and take a look at this, and we're going to provide some level of accountability. And they're able to do that alongside of their partners at the state level, right? It wasn't in conflict, it was in a partnership. So I still think that's a great idea, and that's something that should be being considered alongside of this as you work to, draft the language and look at all the details of any legislation.
No, thank you. And I know you have been incredibly generous with your time. And so I just want to say thank you for always showing up for us, right? And we do appreciate all your insight and perspective. And as we continue to navigate this particular conversation, know that we'll be reaching out to you again. And yes, our office is deeply committed to establishing the Office of Inspector General locally in partnership with you and other folks that can help provide the context in which we can be set up for success. So we appreciate your leadership. We appreciate all the work that you do across the state. And I love shining the light. I think that shine on, State Auditor DeZiglio, shine on. We appreciate you immensely. And so
thanks, Counselor. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks. I'll see you all very soon, I'm sure.
Sure. All right. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to move on in the interest of making sure that we are super mindful, everyone. I'm going to go so I know that Executive Director Gaskin, who represents Grove Hall Main Streets, is on. I'm going to give you the floor, Executive Director Gaskin, and then I'm going to go to Amanda. Amanda, you already had some time. And Director Gaskin has been incredibly patient. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Director Gaskin, you now have the floor. Is Rep.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just trying to think of what I could say that would be meaningful or actionable in the time that we have. I would think on the grants part, and this was true from my experience at all levels, city, state, and federal, and not just for small business, but what I've seen across the board with the grants from the city, that part of the issue is how do we actually communicate that the grants are available in terms of what method is used. So for example, in Grove Hall, what I discovered that, obviously people weren't checking the city's websites or city social media. That's not really a happening kind of social media place to go. But what you might find, or what we found was much more actionable, was using WhatsApp. There's a lot more groups and people that communicate on WhatsApp and also by text. So, typically, we would get something as a Main Street director on a listserv that the city had sent out. But if I didn't get it, you know, or even if a business had a business email, they don't check it that often. There was just a different way. So one of the things is just making sure, how do we get the information out that these things are available? So you did a great job, counselor, when you tried to do all your work on language access. And I think this is just the second step in terms of how different groups, especially our immigrant groups or people that other who don't necessarily use email the most. That's the first thing. I would say that your question about the grant specifically on Blue Hill Avenue with all the businesses that were impacted, and I know you asked the chief that question. I don't think he answered it or answered it directly. What my experience has been with other types of construction work that has impacted businesses is that the original bidding process includes community benefit dollars, and then the community benefit dollars are able to do sometimes things like public good in terms of murals or walls or things like that. We'll also have public dollars available to try to help the businesses that were impacted. So it's not a grant, it's more like restitution, or it's the cost of doing business. So if you're going to shut down a road or a lane of a road and you're going to affect the businesses, then there's a cost for doing that. And the cost shouldn't be bore solely on the side of the businesses. They're already paying the taxes. So I think that in that particular case, that's a $50 million project, whether we would have allocated another $5 million to that project or not, so that then we had the money to actually be able to make the claims for the people that were suffered. Or since the city knows well in advance, you know, the capital budgeting project is 5 years in advance, we could potentially provided business interruption insurance.
Time out. I want to make sure that Rep. Gonzalez, let's put Rep. Gonzalez on mute, please. Thank you. Sorry.
Anyway, all I was simply saying is that capital budget projects are usually budgeted 5 years in advance. And so there's a pretty long lead of planning, and that we meaning the city, could have provided business interruption insurance for every business on the street, so that would have been covered. And even when that particular project started, there was insurance companies that were willing to do the interruption insurance for them. And then finally, in that particular situation, what it did end up happening was getting an earmark at the state level to try to help compensate the businesses for the loss that they have. But again, I think the two things I would say, if I was just going to do big categories, you know, when we do have grants, are we doing what we need to do to be effective in getting the word out? My best example is all those small businesses. The city of Boston knows how to collect your taxes. They know who you are. And so using the same database that we do, so for example, if you want to get anything from the city, they put it through loops. You know, do you owe the water, sewer? Do you owe anybody any money? So those are the same businesses that you couldn't flip that database around and make sure that we want to get the word out about businesses, or when we want to get the word out about grants and other opportunities, and we couldn't use the same database to communicate outbound as we do in the other situation. So that's it. Thank you. I yield the balance of my time, Counselor.
Thank you, Executive Director Gaskin. You have been such an amazing thought partner with our office all throughout COVID, really working to ensure that those who need it most got access to funding opportunities. It was a unique time, and we really do appreciate all the work that you have done with the small businesses in the Grove Hall area. I'm really excited, and I know that Rep. Gonzalez is on vacation, so not vacation, but he's making a special appearance for us, and so I wanted to invite Rep. Gonzalez because what we learned from him, we visited the State House. And in our meeting that he hosted around micro businesses, he had talked about a situation when he was, I believe, a city councilor in Holyoke, I believe, in Western Mass. And he had helped a group of small businesses who were impacted by construction. And he found a way to do so. And I was really excited to hear that, and wanted to have him participate in this dialogue as a state rep who has been invested in helping to support micro businesses. And for those folks who don't know what micro businesses are businesses that have under 10 employees and or make $100 less than $250,000, right? So these are the people think of small businesses, but then there are micro small businesses that I think are also a part of the conversation. So Rep Gonzalez, we really do appreciate you taking the time during your time off to be with us here today. So we're gonna pass it on to you, and we're talking about grant making and supporting small businesses, particularly those who have been impacted by construction. Any insight that you can share would be greatly appreciated. And thank you for being here.
I'm back. Can you hear me? I don't know if I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. I can't hear anything, but I think you're hearing me. So, okay, perfect. So thank you, Councilor Mejia. Thank you for allowing me. Thank you for giving me titles that I haven't earned. I haven't been a city councilor in the city of Holyoke or anywhere else, but I am a state representative. I was the president of the Massachusetts Latino Chamber of Commerce, and we're very helpful and instrumental in trying to assist our micro business community develop and grow in Western Massachusetts and across the state. And one of the initiatives that we did was during a construction project, we saw that many of the micro businesses were impacted, and many of them were communities that look like you and I and many others. And they weren't given the advance notice of potential shutdowns of streets and also potential loss of revenue that they were going to do. So what we did was try to work out with the construction company who was generating revenue by doing these projects, and we're able to help them provide a specific guideline. So the businesses would basically allow us to find and look at their records and be able to determine potentially how much money they were earning on a daily basis prior to any construction project. That we put in a formula in place, and depending on that number, they were giving anywhere from $50 to $150 per day for the loss of the revenue that they were going to receive because of these construction projects. So there's different ways to look at these programs. Permitting is the first way. Anybody that's doing a construction project has to get permitting. Therefore, the city is know in advance that these projects are potentially coming. Differently than when not different than when a construction project, they have to hire police officers. They have to hire certain individuals that are going to be part of that construction project, and they get paid out of the revenue that they're generating from the construction contractees. So therefore, if the city is aware of the construction permitting process, that gives them opportunity to provide advance notice to the micro businesses that will be impacted in that community well in advance. Second is, within that construction project, there could be community benefit dollars that is requested in order to assist depending on the amount of businesses that are going to be impacted. In addition, I heard one of your other individuals speaking today that community benefit projects that benefit the murals, et cetera, that's also a pool of money that can be looked at to make sure that you have some revenue within that to be able to mitigate some of these financial losses that our micro businesses community. But that should be done well in advance. It has to have well preparation in order to have the funding in place. But when we finance a contractor, we need to pay our law enforcement agents to protect the traffic. That money doesn't come from the city budgets. It comes from the contract. It's written into the contract of the contractor RFP process. So that's another way to potentially look at this, but it all depends on doing advance work to make sure that the businesses first have insurance, second have interruption insurance, third community benefit funding, that there's some type of pool that keeps growing that business and it's revolving, and third having a contractor put into the price of the contract, the overall contract, the money to mitigate losses of businesses impacted.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. And I just want to know for the record, I knew that I wasn't sure if you did this prior to being a state rep. I just went ahead and gave you a whole new title. I thought that when you did that work, you were a city councilor then. I knew it was something before your initial role as state rep. So sorry about that. Thank you for clarifying that. But I do remember that when we went to the State House, I left incredibly inspired and hopeful, because a lot of the small businesses that we've been working with, we were just trying to figure out how to support them. And what you were able to share with me provided at least a roadmap. So I'm glad that you are here getting this on the record, right? Because what it does, it gives us an opportunity to go back and rewind this tape and figure out what are the steps that we need to take here on this side of the state to support the small businesses here now dealing with this issue. So thank you for showing up the way that you did, as always that you do here. And so we have one more panelist, Rep. Gonzalez. I'm not sure if you have a hard stop, but if you do, let me know, because I want to make sure that we have one more. You got time? Okay, great.
Go ahead, please do.
Okay,
Yes.
great, thank you. So I'm gonna go next to Amanda. And then I'm going to then open it up for questions from whoever of my colleagues are still here. But Amanda, you've been incredibly patient. I let you skip the line earlier, so you have to wait a little bit longer. But you now have 5 full minutes, plus the one that I gave you before. So that's 6. And if you're still here with us.
I appreciate it. Yes. And I think there might be, I'm not sure if Kayla, who is another, I can definitely give her some of my time.
No, you don't worry. You have your full 6.
Oh, I have my full.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we have some folks that have signed up for public testimony. She has her full 2.
Okay, perfect. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk in front of everybody. As I said earlier, I own 2 businesses in Charlestown, but I am one of many that have been impacted by the construction, the ongoing construction. And once my sales started to decrease to upwards of 30% each month compared to last year's numbers, that's when I decided it was a time to sound the alarm to city officials. Wasn't really actually sure who to contact, because the numbers on the national grid or Boston Water and Sewer flyers or like signs they put out just kind of let you know what's kind of happening, but it doesn't let you know the actual scale of the interruption that you would have to your business. It doesn't really help to call those numbers and find out that they're going to be digging a hole, and they're not the ones that know there's a hole in front of your business. It's going to be there for 2 weeks and make people not be able to come in at all. So one of my big things that I've learned during all of this is that Boston Water and Sewer is supposed to give you 2 weeks advance notice, and it sounds like a lot of the national grid contractors give you like 3 or 4 days. 2 weeks notice for something that's going to last for a year or 2 is absolutely not adequate notice. There's absolutely no way you can run a business successfully with 2 weeks notice for something that's going to impact 2 years. And if I would have sounded the alarm earlier if I didn't realize how long this was going to last because of what we were being told in front of our store. I also can't be calling every single day getting updates because I have 2 businesses to keep afloat during this. So basically we started to prepare for what might happen as the construction didn't stop. But the problem is we've scaled our inventory and our buying back so much, and our sales are so far down that I actually don't have enough cash to get adequate inventory into my business for the holiday season. So I will have it will just continue to be this cyclical problem of I can't now have enough sales during the holiday season because I've depleted all of my money staying afloat for the past couple months. And running my payroll. As I said, I have part-time people, I have hourly people, but I have a lot of salaried people. One of my businesses is a full-service florist. We have weddings and events booked for the next year. We have walk-in florals. Doing floral deliveries in a van when the roads are closed has been an interesting endeavor. And also, honestly, keeping employees motivated to go to work is also, that's on me, but that's absolutely a lot. One of my businesses is located along the Freedom Trail, and we finally got our Freedom Trail tourists back to what they had been pre-COVID, and now they're completely gone. They avoid the area we're in. And also, I appreciated the final gentleman, whoever, I'm sorry.
Rep Gonzalez.
Rep Gonzalez, the police detail. We have not had an adequate police detail at all. There are most days where we have no police detail, and the construction workers get off of their equipment and usher cars, the MBTA bus across. We don't have police detail. We've had some police here or there, but it's just kind of been one of the largest parts of the problem because nobody can get by. It was a big enough deal that WBZ came because we've been trying to push it out on social media because our sales are suffering so poorly that I need to get traction. I need people in the door. We have websites, we have all that stuff, but you just can't prepare for what has happened with such limited notice. And we understand delays happen. In Charlestown, there used to be an elevated T. I understand when you start digging, you might find parts of all sorts of things. It's a historic neighborhood, but there's no communication of when these massive roadblocks are happening. I saw one Boston Water and Sewer project is delayed because I pushed to get more information because they're missing certain parts. So the construction starts and it stops, starts. No one's telling us when it's gonna happen. So we just need communication. I buy from tons of local vendors. They're missing out on my sales from them. So it's hurting so many other people. It's hurting all the people we donate to. My stores last year donated over $10,000 back to the community. I have to cut it off. I can't do that. So it's also hurting our local organizations. So the trickle down of this that could be solved with somebody giving us an adequate timeline, letting us prepare. And as Mr. Gaskin noted, the community benefits program, some restitution, the business interruption charges, something like that. Somebody that can tell us these things exist would be fantastic. One of my stores absolutely needs to be repainted after this. It's awful. I have a delivery van, a city bus hit the side mirror because of all the cones. It's a narrow road now. I can't wait for the city to try to fix it. I just have to pay for it and move on. But it's made our streets narrow. It's just had so many little and large, it's small things, big things. It's all of it all at once. And we just need someone to tell us who can help us. So I'm just looking for communication. It can't stop. We need good infrastructure. Love that it's happening.
Yeah.
But we need help to keep us alive.
Thank you, thank you. And I want to just uplift for those who are tuning in and getting to meet Amanda for the first time. We actually got to know her through Instagram and our social media. I got tagged in one of her posts because people know that we had been also making some noise. I know there was a lot of businesses on the Blue Hill Ave corridor who had experienced a lot of interruption as a result of construction. And your visibility on social media and how you have utilized that platform in ways that humanize the impact. I think it really drew our office to you. So I just want to say thank you for answering my DMs the way that you did, and for not only showing up, but bringing it, right? Like really helping people understand the full picture here alongside some of the other folks that are going to be providing public testimony. I think that this is what city government should look like, is everybody working together across, the entire city, different experiences and, diverse opinions to really figure out how do we all together tackle this issue in a way that doesn't just do this, right? Like everyone here plays a role, like Chief Idugu's camp, the administration, Boston Water and Sewer Commission, the state rep, the state auditor, the main streets, like the businesses. Like if we really start looking at this work, like everybody all in together, girls, all hands on deck, then I think that we'll get to where we need to be. And I think that that's what I really love about hosting hearings, is that what we want to do is create that type of environment where we walk away with our to-dos. Here's some really good ideas that have come up. Here's some things that Rep Gonzalez has shared. Here's some things that we know State Auditor DeZiglio can do. Here's what we know the main streets are doing. Like, what are we all doing, right? And how can we bring all of our work into a platform that we walk away inspired, because we lose hope. We really do. We lose hope. We lose trust in government. And I think that my hope is that you see this as an opportunity for us to restore a little bit of trust. And hopefully it's not just a conversation about a conversation. It's something that we can actually do something about. Allegedly, there was a fund that we thought we had stumbled upon that was created in 1990. We learned that it was never really part of the charter. It was like a veto. It was vetoed by the mayor. So we thought we had found something that could help businesses, and we later found out that it was a sham. Sorry. But it was, the fact of the matter is we got played. But now there's an opportunity with all of that we've been hearing from small businesses like yourself and a lot of the Blue Hole Ave businesses that were part of our first hearing. I think that there is an opportunity and an appetite and a role for the city to play to create and establish a fund that is specifically going to help folks who are experiencing construction, delayed construction, and that holds everyone else accountable. I've spoken a lot. I don't want to keep on holding people hostage. I know we have Jelani Pereira, who is waiting for us. We have Kayla as well, and Karishma. I know that they are to public testimony, but I want to create space to give them an opportunity to speak. Rep Gonzalez, Amanda, and Director Gaskin, you know, this is an opportunity for us to ask questions. I do have a few questions specifically for you each, but I wanted to make sure that those folks who have been waiting for public testimony have an opportunity to do just that. So public testimony is 2 minutes, and so I wanted to give our public testimony an opportunity to speak. Again, unorthodox, usually we do public testimony at the end, and then we go back, you know, we do questions and then public testimony is an afterthought. I like to honor community voice. So Karishma, Ethan, if you can allow our two folks who are signed up for public testimony to join us, that would be great. And
Madam Chair, there's only one person in here for public testimony. I just made her a panelist, so she should be coming on soon.
Oh, okay. All right. Great. All right. All right. So there we go. Kayla, right?
Yes. Hello.
Hello, welcome. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, perfect. I have it written down, so it will be fast. My name is Kayla King, and I'm the owner of KB Collection, a women's clothing store in Charlestown. I moved to Charlestown 4 years ago and fell in love with the charm and thriving small businesses in the community. Over the past year, the charm of Charlestown has been diminished with the construction, which feels never ending. As small business owners, we do everything that we can to support our neighborhood, and we understand that this work is necessary, but it has felt like we have been left to fend for ourselves. I want to thank Amanda for bringing out our struggles to the council, because she is truly a pillar of our community, and it is hard to watch her well-established two businesses struggle with construction blocking off access to her shops, like I also dealt with for 8 months. Not only was the road closed, but the sidewalk that tourists would walk was closed. We pay so much for rent and the incredible foot traffic of Boston, but I did not have that for months on end with little to no communication from the city, but I still was expected to pay full rent without any relief. I had to rely on online sales to stay afloat, with 30% of my sales being online from January 2024 to March 2024. I documented on my Instagram page that construction started on my street on August 16th, 2023, and the last picture I have is February 29th, 2024, but I don't have the exact end date, but it luckily has since ended. I have some pictures because I didn't know if I was going to be able to share my screen, but you can see that construction is fully blocking. You can't even see my business. The sidewalk was closed. Road closed. So as you can see from these pictures, my store was completely blocked and out of sight from general public for days on end. Some numbers to show you how my sales were impacted by the lack of foot traffic and access to my storefront. In November 2022, my gross sales was $21,876 versus November 2023, it was $15,947. In March 2023, my gross sales was $23,185 versus 2024, 5,524, which was an especially hard month due to rats dying in my walls, which was caused by construction shaking up rodents on all corners of my shop. It was on Monument Ave, Main Street, and Warren Street at the same time. This also affected 2 other businesses, to my knowledge, with the increased rodent issues. As small business owners, we care so deeply about this community. I live and work in Charlestown, and we just need support and open communication from our city if we're going to be able to stay in business. Thank you. Sorry if I went over 2 minutes.
Oh, it's okay. I'm here for all of it, like literally. And I think that the more people speak up and provide the examples that you gave some real numbers, right? We've been asking businesses to do that accounting because when you put dollars into it, you can't dispute the facts, right? And then my whole thing is who's going to pay for it? And I think that this is probably where I think most of like Eversource, National Grid, and Boston Water and Sewer, they're not here, but they also play a role in this, right? And there's an opportunity for them to maybe pitch into the fund, whatever the fund looks like, right? There's also a lot of development that's happening in the city of Boston. There's a fund for housing, and there's a fund for workforce development. Now there should be a fund specifically dedicated for small businesses. People are doing construction here, they should pay to do that work. And so I'm really excited about what the possibilities look like, and having advocates like you being so on point with those dollars, because that's what matters, right? You gotta like to the point. And so I think that you are also serving as an inspiration for a lot of the other businesses that are gonna start going back to their numbers and saying, oh my God, this is how much I need. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the time.
No, thank you. So Rep. Gonzalez, now you are on the state level, okay? And you've been doing a lot of work around supporting micro businesses, small businesses. So I'm just curious, as we continue to navigate these conversations, and I know that Councilor Weber, you're still here, so if you have questions, please make sure that you raise your hand or put your hand, or let me know so I can go to you first, Councilor Weber.
Just one quick question. Oh, sorry, but yeah, I'm sorry, Representative Gonzalez. You mentioned interruption insurance, or can you just describe that again? I'm not sure.
Yes. Insurances pay. You can buy interruption insurance. Basically, is when you are shut down for whatever specific reason, depending on what your daily revenue is. There's a insurance that you can purchase for that, and that you can do that by whoever your general liability insurance agent is, and try to purchase interruption insurance.
I didn't know that existed. I don't know if Amanda or Miss Mitchell or Mr. Gaskin have any, if that's a practical thing for businesses in Boston, or is it even available?
Just speaking from being a small business owner, I'm first of all always afraid my rates are going to go up if I pull insurance for anything like that, but I haven't looked into it. But it's also because we don't know what's happening, so we don't, if the city could just let us know, we could even just plan around it a little bit more. So to not know if the construction's going to happen, the timelines we were given in the beginning are a month. We're going to be here for a couple weeks, so we don't even know how long things are going to be interrupted for, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that's something maybe Mr. Gonzalez, if it's something you just apply for after,
Well, first of all, I think that you're going into new zones, right? So previously, when construction projects were even thought of, their information is sent out to municipalities or different areas. So I think that there could be certain type of legislation that can promote the immediate contact of businesses that will be impacted, or general areas that will be impacted. No different than when a property wants to have a zoning change, they have to send out certified letters to abutters to be able to make sure that project gets the public input prior to being approved. Same thing should be done here and to some extent. And I'm not trying to impress upon any changes in Boston, Massachusetts as a state legislator, but I'm just suggesting that there's different ways that we can look at, as Councilor Mejia said, there is fundings for all types of different issues. Why not have one for businesses, interruption insurance? And that can be potentially even one of the larger associations that can purchase that as a group, which will be a lower cost and be able to provide that at a cheaper cost to our businesses that may need it or want it. But usually these construction projects, there's 2 or 3 years in the making. So within that period of time, like you stated, as a small business owners, given the right timing of when you're informed, you can work around that and be able to purchase insurance or not purchase insurance, but also make the changes necessary to make sure you can reap as much benefit as potentially possible.
Okay, yes, thanks. That was, I thought that was interesting and something, you know, our main streets and the city council should look into and at least make people aware of that. But yeah, thank you, Chair. I appreciate I'll let you ask your questions.
No, thank you, Councilor Weber. I think your question is right on point because some of these things are, if you were to purchase it, that's also an expense, right? Because every time when you have an insurance, like I know if I add like, what is it, car rental to my insurance package, it's a little bit extra, right? For every single premium, package, it goes up a little bit. So I think that there is something to be said about the interruption insurance and the cost of it. And then maybe what ways can either Main Street help support with some funding to cover that? I think Councilor Weber, I don't know what that looks like, but I do think that if the city, I'm just going to always go back to what I feel like is important to say, if the city, if we're causing harm in any kind of way, then we should be able to figure out how we can alleviate some of that harm, whatever that looks like, whether it be subsidies that we are able to provide, grants that we're able to offer, property taxes that we might be able to waive, that there are different levers that we can pull on the city that I think will help support. The one lever that may be difficult is around the insurance interruption, purchasing it, because I feel like Rep. Gonzalez, if you could provide some insight, is that something who covered it? Do you know, like, how did that end up working?
You're on mute.
Are you on mute, Rep. Gonzalez?
I'm sorry. It's no different than flood insurance for your home. It's something you purchase in advance of potential hazard. Hopefully it won't happen, but the fact that you have it, it is. It's no different than purchasing car insurance. You either provide basic or you provide full insurance. It's just up to you as a business owner. But again, I think pooling individuals all together hopefully can reduce that rate if there's that, a high increase of that charge. I don't know what that is, but that's a conversation we probably need to have with insurance companies or insurance agency association.
Yeah, I was thinking like the state requires employers to purchase workers' compensation insurance to protect their workers if they're injured or the workers' comp program. It's I don't know if the city with a home rule or something could require construction or someone when they're doing a project to pay for that kind of insurance to cover third parties. An employer covers their workers, the construction company is covering that, and then they have an interruption, they could file a claim, the insurance company looks at it, they reward money or they don't, but that sort of removes that might be some extra insulation or something. Is that Rep. Gonzalez? Sorry.
Well, I think that's just one way, a different way of looking at it. Sure. I mean, when the traffic control is implemented within the contracting bids. Therefore, the cities are not reaping that cost. It's already part of the contract. So a contractor already knows that they're going to be there for 3 days. They need traffic assistance. They have to contract that with the local municipality police departments or the state police. They know what that cost is because it's already formulated into the RFP, and they put that cost right into the project.
Okay, Council Weber, is that good? You good? Awesome, thank you. And thank you, Rep. I think one of the things that we may be leaning on you a little bit more on as we continue to have these conversations is there's some things that we can do on the city level. There's definitely going to be some things that we're going to have to work in partnership with the state to support. So we'll be definitely reaching out to you and so that we can continue to work in partnership as we continue to navigate this particular issue. And I'm curious with, from the executive director for Main Streets in Grove Hall, Director Gaskin, if you could just talk to us a little bit about, and I know we're almost at time here, if you could just talk to us a little bit about what if any insight you could provide. I know that we talked about city funding. We usually work with nonprofit organizations to provide funding. Main Street is one of the main sources that oftentimes we tap into, and other nonprofit organizations that provide supports to small businesses. Can you just talk to us a little bit about any insight that you can provide us around navigating state funds and or federal funds and the role that you think potentially the city can play and help to leverage some of those dollars?
Well, I'll start. Think about that question. You asked it. So we do can provide technical assistance. One of the things that is probably one of the best examples is during the COVID, we had PPP funds. We worked collaboratively. So there was a number of banks and myself and some other agencies. And so this was outside of Main Street's organization in terms of the city. And as a group of us, there was maybe more. We were more specifically to get those grants to the new businesses in our district. That worked very successfully because we did it by geography, by language, with both sides of business. We were able to, we also knew which banks or lending institutions on either side were ready and able to take the application. So always as fast as we could get the application submitted, we were able to through. Our experience with grants.
Sorry, Director, I just want to make sure everybody can hear you okay. I'm not sure if there's an echoing coming out.
I was saying, for example, we do have grant programs now, like our Restart program with our technical assistance. At the Restart program, a number of us, for all practical purposes, stop using because of the time it takes to turn around those grant applications in person. So what some of the Main Streets have done is they've just created their own Restart program using other funding, some of them have earmarks, etc. As a way to get, as a way to accomplish the same thing while going through the city.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. There was a little bit of a echoing in the back, so in the interest of making sure that your voice is heard, can you just say the last 2 sentences?
Okay, very, very briefly, I would say that there's a problem using this Restart program because the amount of time it takes to create applications not much there. So what I'm saying is that some of the Main Streets have set up their own independent Restart program using funds outside of the city. I mean, for example, they'll get the money from a state rep as an earmark, and then they can give the money to the businesses directly without the delay or whatever the other issues that the cities have trying to fix them. program has been problematic for a number of years.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I want to end wrapping up with our time together, but I wanted to just make sure before we wrapped up, I wanted to again thank our panelists. Thank you for those, and thank you to my colleagues who asked some really great questions to the administration. And for those who are following this conversation, I just want to say thank you for always showing up the way that you do. I am just curious, Rep. Gonzalez, if you have any last remarks, Amanda or Director Gaskin, before we transition into our closing remarks so that we can make sure that we give you back your time. But before I do all of my closing, I just wanted to make sure that I gave you all an opportunity for any last remarks. No? Okay. All right.
So what I would say is, based on what we heard today, you could write a resolution to say that all future contracts with the city where we anticipate there to be business interruption requires that the cost of their potential projected interruption be included in the contract, so that once it happens, we don't find ourselves in a situation that we are now trying to help the people after the fact. That could be priced in the contract up front, or some other means of mitigation. So I can see you bringing that resolution to the council.
Okay. I think that that's a great recommendation, Director Gaskin, and why don't we, I think what our office is ready to do is move from a hearing to identifying some opportunities for working sessions where we can start workshopping some of these things out and maybe potentially draft up something that we can file as an ordinance, because what's the sense of having a hearing for the sake of having a hearing? What we want is action, right? So our goal is to resuscitate the 1990 grant that allegedly we thought existed, and think this was part of that conversation. So I think that that is the direction that we should be moving in, and it would be the folks that have been engaged in this dialogue that's going to help us get there. So we'll be reaching out to you for that. Awesome.
Thank you. I won't think I've wasted my time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Rep. Gonzalez, any final remarks? Amanda? Anyone? Going once? Going twice?
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it very much. And I know everyone in Charlestown does too.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're super excited to have you here. And Rep. Gonzalez, going once? Going twice? Okay. I will be wrapping our public hearing up. I just wanted to thank everybody who participated. And I also want to give a shout out to the businesses down the Blue Hill Ave corridor who have been sounding the alarm around this issue. We hosted a hearing back in June. I'm really excited to have Amanda now and the folks from Charlestown. We're making this is a citywide issue. Everybody is being impacted by construction, our small businesses, and we need to support them. So I just wanted to thank everybody for participating. Thank you to central staff. Thank you to my team. And thank you to our panelists. So this hearing on docket 1214 is adjourned. This is my bootleg gavel. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.